Well, hello and welcome back to Midweek Mashup. Today I'm sitting down with Pastor Eric, and we're kicking off a new series today.
Yes, we are.
And it's called One Story.
One story.
Because the Bible is one story.
Yeah.
So I hear. I thought it was 66 stories.
Yeah.
But
and even some of those aren't stories. They're poems or, it's... The Bible is, like you said, 66 books written by lots of different authors, but it still tells a cohesive, big story with a lot of rabbit trails and details and stuff like that. But you see these themes come up time and time again. These people trying to make sense of what this world, what life is all about, who God is, what He's all about. How did we get in this situation that we're in, and how do we fit in the big picture of this? And so throughout that, you can kind of trace the journey. And, I'm making the case through the series that this story is God's redemptive story, His mission to reconcile all things to Himself. So in the first 3 chapters, it talks about creation and then the fall. How did we get in this mess that we're in where the world is just so out of order, so chaotic? And from that point through Genesis 11, it just shows how it spirals out of control over and over and over again. And then God chooses Abraham, and that's what we're going to talk about this week. And the redemptive story starts his choosing of a person, more accurately, a people, to partner with Him in reconciling the world. So. That's what I make the claim the Bible is. Now, the Bible is so many other things. I think that's just a really good big picture way of looking at it and how it all holds together as one story.
Well, it's great. I think we're going to cover a lot of awesome topics over the course of this series. Like you said, we talked about the creation and the fall on Sunday.
Yep.
And now I've heard the generalization that the first few chapters of Genesis are summed up as God made everything perfect, and then humanity screwed it all up. But it's a little more nuanced than that, isn't it?
It is. In fact, I was listening to a great Bible Project podcast today talking about dragons. There's a whole series of Bible Project episodes where they talk about dragons because, in our English translations, we have different words. But in the creation narrative, it talks about how He created the sea monsters and all other things that swim and the birds of the air. Like that's kind of the way the phrase works. Like sea monsters singles them out for some reason. I'm coming to a cohesive point on this, I promise. I'm not talking about dragons because they're cool. And then other things that swim. Okay, and then there's the things in the air, right? And we have that translated the great sea creatures in our thing. But when the writer or the translators of a Greek New Testament were being made by Hebrew people, but Jewish people, but translating the Bible into Greek, they chose the Greek word for dragon, and which is very close to dragon. I can't remember the exact pronunciation, but it's
like dragon or something.
Yeah, dragon. Yeah, and you can't like mistake it. Like that's what they chose because that was the imagery in their mind and in the cosmology. And so that all that to say, like when we talk about nuance, that God created everything perfect, we tend to think of the word perfect as 100% good, squeaky clean, nothing wrong. The sense of the word perfect that's used, especially in the Old Testament, is more about complete. It's done. It doesn't mean there's not anything imperfect in it. It just means that it's done. And so, without getting too deep into this, because it's really fun for us nerds, I don't know if anybody watching this will be super interested, but the sea dragon idea of creation narrative is also in line with this idea that the seas and the abyss, which was the author of Genesis says the world was formless, right? Chaotic, wild and waste. There's a million different ways to translate it, but the word abyss, the concept of abyss, this bottomless, terrifying water, right? And this is an ancient picture of you could say the absence of God or the absence of order, anti-creation. And the Bible Project guys do a great job of talking about why. Like, if you live near a coast, you've seen the sea get angry, right? And water is both needed for life, but also chaotic and unpredictable, and storms and all that stuff. So the symbolism of this, and they go on to say that, like, that plus the darkness of night, right? God shines his light. He says, let there be light, to separate day from night, light from dark. But he doesn't get rid of the dark. And he does bring land up out of the abyss, but he doesn't get rid of the abyss. We still have the sea, and it's terrifying, and it holds these dragons, right? Like this whole idea of creation, there's still chaos, right? God brought order out of the chaos, but he didn't get rid of all the chaos. And what does that mean? Like, it's kind of a interesting, like, puzzle, and it comes back to these questions that we have going back to ancient times, pre even written history of people going, what is going on in the world? We see order, we see the beauty of creation, we see that it's good, and then we see this chaos. We see the scary waters, and we see the beasts. We see the like we see there's something trying to disrupt the order, chaos, right? And that's so much of what the author of Genesis, as we talked about Genesis 1 through 3, is trying to, like, set up, is that there is chaos, there is some scary stuff, and God is the one who's in charge of all of it. The writer of Genesis has this very high view of God that, like, other ancient peoples would have had the chaos monster and God almost on equal, like, playing field, but the God you pulls out a victory somehow. And the author of Genesis is like, God's in total control of it all. Yeah. He's this all powerful thing. The chaos is nothing to him. And you're like, okay, that's cool. And you see the theology start to form of how big God is, how capable he is, how there's nothing that can overcome him. And that's so much a part of the text. And yet, this God also seems to give free will to humans, and we really did a bad job with it. And so now we're trying to figure out, we invited more chaos. We leaned into the chaos, or we let it spill out everywhere. And now we're trying to figure out, how do we clean this thing up, and what is God at work doing through the Bible and in our time to heal, to restore, to bring order back to the chaos.
So in a way, humanity's fall is kind of like us fumbling the group project that God brought us into, is what I'm getting.
Yes, very well put. Yeah.
It's at least sitting here, it almost seems like kind of a sour note to start a series on.
Totally.
Like, why did we choose? I mean, other than it being the first 3 chapters of the Bible,
right, yeah.
Like, why start on this note? What's it setting up for?
Yeah, there's the very good part of, like, when you're looking at Genesis 1 through 3, there's this very amazing realization that we come to, which is that we, like you said, we've got a group project that God is welcomed us in on, and we were meant to rule and reign over creation as God's partners, meaning we would do it his way, with him at the helm, and we as his helpers, right? And that's super cool, right? Like, that is an amazing privilege and invitation. And like you said, we fumbled the bag. We really botched the group project because we decided, well, we want to be in charge. We want to kind of edge God out and rule it our way. And that has, like I said before, we kind of leaned into the chaos, right? And so the reason to set up the whole series this way is because we know what the bad news is. Like, you don't have to go far to realize the world is broken. It is not as it should be. And that humanity is the main issue, right? It's not anything else. We are the problem. And that's not to discount anything spiritual going on. There is a spiritual battle taking place between good and evil. The Bible seems to say yes, though we don't know exactly what that looks like. We're not privy to that. We just see the effects of it in mostly in humanity and human relations, right? Yeah. And but also in the way that creation has been, in many ways corrupted, which is one of the things that Genesis 3 talks about. Human relationships have been just torn up. We ourselves aren't as we should be. Like, the physical pain, the psychological stuff we deal with, like, it's all humanity isn't what we could be. We are at war with ourselves, essentially, right? And it all stemmed from us pushing God out. That relationship was broken. And so I make the case that Jesus came to redeem and restore all those things, our relationship with God, and then healing our relationship with each other, ourselves, and creation. And all of those things God is still working. Before, he wanted us to partner in his rule, which he still rules. He's still Lord. But now he's also inviting us to partner with his reconciliation. So we get to be a part of the healing of all things, which means we need to care, yes, about our relationship with God, but we also need to care about peace between people. We need to care about individuals because we're twisted up, we're broken, and so we need to be healers in the lives of individuals. And we need to care for this world that God has given us. There seems to be this mentality in some Christian circles that this world is going to hell anyway. So let's just, light it on fire for the sake of commerce, to which I would say, oh, no, that's not in the scriptures. That is not in the scriptures at all. We've been given this gift and we're meant to rule over it in a way that God would, which is to honor it. When he created it, he said it was good, right? So for us to just be like, well, it's kind of cooked anyway, let's just, let's speed up the process. That is not a Christian point of view. That would be more of a certain type of economic point of view that says, and justify the means. So all that little tangent to say, we really do have a responsibility now, not to just like hunker down and say, well, this world is on fire and we're just going to pray and, kind of huddle in this corner and stay safe until Jesus comes back or whatever, our time on earth is done. And the Bible is a book that says, nope, that is not your role. Your role is to join me in the reconciliation process. We are a part of healing what is broken. And so the Bible is that. It's the story of God and his mission to reconcile all things, and he is constantly inviting people to join him. And it's a privilege. It's a high calling and an honor, and it's so much fun. You know what I mean? One of the things when people ask me, like, what do I love about my job as a pastor, it's seeing people like dip their toe in the water of some sort of reconciliation work, some sort of ministry. And then they're going, oh my gosh, I've never felt closer to God. I've never felt more alive. I've never felt more of a purpose. It's like, yes, I love that. I love it because it's the very thing that God calls us to do is the very best thing for us. It's the thing that will help us to thrive. It's not just he's got work for us to do. It's that he blesses our socks off when we do it. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose for the series is just kind of lay that out. Here's what the Bible's inviting us to, and come on, let's accept this invitation and join him. So,
well, thank you so much for sitting down and sharing a little bit more.
For sure.
If you want to hear more from Pastor Eric, we'll go ahead and add a banner to that message on creation and fall.
Now he has to do that. He has to make the banner go right here.
I don't know if I can do that, but I'll put something there.
Maybe just like a sparkle, the more you know type of thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to hear more, we have some more for you right here.